Welcome to this explainer. So, if you just pull up a standard world map, you'll spot this little stretch of water right between Iran and Oman. It looks, well, incredibly small. But do not let that tiny physical footprint fool you. We're looking at the Strait of Hormuz, and let me tell you, the global stakes resting on this one specific spot are just absolutely massive. Today, we're going to unpack the total domino effect that would be triggered if this single vital waterway were ever disrupted.
Now, to really wrap our heads around how high those stakes actually are, just consider this quote: "One narrow waterway, shut it down, and the global economy could feel the shock within days." I mean, it sounds exactly like the plot of some Hollywood suspense thriller, right? But no, this is our actual reality. A local crisis in this neck of the woods, it definitely doesn't stay local. The sheer speed at which a disruption here turns into a massive global shockwave is, frankly, faster than most of us can even process. And the real reason for that crazy speed and severity? It all comes down to the math, the staggering numbers. We are talking about over 20 million barrels of oil flowing through this exact region every single day. Just to put that into perspective, that's roughly 20% of the entire world's global petroleum liquids consumption. Modern civilization literally runs on what passes through here. I'm talking about the factories manufacturing our goods, the airlines needing jet fuel to connect the globe, and literally millions upon millions of homes relying on this flow to keep the lights on and the heat running, day in and day out. To fully grasp the kind of vulnerability we're dealing with here, we need to talk about what a choke point actually is. By definition, it's a narrow, critical geographical route that high volumes of essential trade just absolutely have to pass through. And the Strait of Hormuz? It's not just some random geographic bottleneck. It is the ultimate maritime energy choke point. Our hyper-connected global economy relies entirely on this narrow passage staying open. If a major conflict suddenly made it unsafe or blocked it completely, that massive global flow of energy stops dead, and the whole system is immediately in jeopardy.
So the crucial point is this, and honestly, this is the truly terrifying part. The very first economic hit wouldn't actually be an immediate physical shortage of oil. You wouldn't just wake up tomorrow to completely empty gas stations. Nope. The absolute first thing to hit the global economy would be sheer psychological fear. And you know, in global financial markets, fear is a wildly powerful thing. It can totally hijack financial systems and send prices absolutely sky high long before a single real-world shortage ever even hits our shores.
Let's look at how this plays out, because the escalation happens at breakneck speed. Day one, headlines announce a shipping standstill. Boom. Just the news itself acts as a massive trigger. By day two, traders are out there aggressively reassessing all their supply and demand risks, trying to figure out exactly how much is disrupted and for how long. And by day seven, shipping companies are in full panic mode. Insurance premiums are completely skyrocketing, and investors are placing these massive bets on higher energy prices. We literally go from a breaking news headline to a full-blown panic-driven price shock in just 1 week.
Okay, let's dive into this because it really is this relentless mechanical chain reaction. First, market panic causes oil prices to shoot up almost instantly. And because fuel is suddenly way more expensive, it immediately triggers a dramatic spike in transport costs. Naturally, if it costs more to physically move stuff from point A to point B, the prices of the actual stuff, food, clothing, machinery, you name it, they inevitably go up right behind it. The final result? Widespread inflation. It's this direct, totally unavoidable chain that links a distant energy crisis straight to widespread global economic pain. Let's bring this massive, global crisis straight down to your level, the micro-reality of this hitting your very own wallet. Because this isn't just some obscure, high-level oil industry problem, right? This is a kitchen table problem. Take the UK, for instance, which is super plugged into these global energy markets. A shock like this puts massive pressure on everyday British household budgets. In a severe scenario, your standard family grocery bill could surge significantly in a matter of weeks. Local businesses would face way steeper overheads, and the cost to fill up a typical family car, that could easily jump by 20 to 30 pounds literally overnight at your local petrol station.
Let's move to the logistics of it all and see how this builds. Because ships can't just easily take another path. Bypassing the strait means confronting this whole cascading list of alternative route penalties. First, shippers have to cover way more distance just to get around the region. And more distance, that naturally means massive spikes in fuel consumption. It also takes significantly more time. Plus, because of the elevated risks in the area, war risk insurance costs become dramatically more expensive. You can see how this turns into a total logistical nightmare really fast.
Which brings us to a really scary reality for the global economy and our already jumpy stock markets. We wouldn't just be dealing with one isolated crisis here. Oh no, we would be taking two simultaneous incredibly heavy blows. A massive energy shock hitting right alongside a severe transportation shock. Basically, the cost to power the world spikes. At the exact same moment, the cost to physically move goods around the world spikes. It's a double whammy.
And this double shock creates what is honestly an absolute macroeconomic nightmare. This right here is the macro trap. When you have energy and transport costs exploding at the same time, financial markets, which by the way absolutely hate uncertainty, they start to panic. Investors rapidly yank their money away from riskier assets. Currencies come under intense pressure. Businesses are suddenly staring down surging production costs, so consumers naturally stop spending to protect their own wallets. And suddenly, global economic growth just starts to grind to a painful, shuddering halt.
And this brilliantly illustrates the impossible catch-22 that central banks are suddenly forced into. Just look at the terrible choice they have to make. On one hand, they could raise interest rates to fight the rampant inflation caused by the energy shock. But doing that makes mortgages and business loans more expensive, which only slows down an economic engine that is already struggling. On the other hand, they could choose to just do nothing. But that means inflation stays painfully high for much, much longer. It's a true trap for the people pulling the strings of the global economy, and there is absolutely no easy way out.
Now, seeing all this doom and gloom, you might be wondering, and it's a very logical question to ask, but would the world actually run out of oil? It's a super common misconception, so let's just dispel it right now based on the data. If the strait closed, we wouldn't suddenly wake up to find the entire world completely drained of oil. There are alternative suppliers out there, for sure. There are alternative routes, and some energy supplies could definitely be redirected. However, as we're about to see, those alternatives, they are definitely not simple magic fixes.
Because the true bottlenecks aren't necessarily a lack of oil sitting in the ground somewhere. The real threats are the severe logistical limitations. For starters, there is very limited alternative capacity. Those other routes simply cannot immediately carry that same massive volume of energy. On top of that, the global infrastructure just isn't ready for a sudden massive shift in flow, and rerouting entire shipping fleets wastes critical time that our supply chains simply do not have. And hanging over all of this like a dark cloud is market uncertainty. In global finance, uncertainty can be just as devastating as a physical shortage, totally freezing up markets and spiking costs across the board.
So, when we step back and look at this entire domino effect from start to finish, there are three major global lessons we really need to take away. Number one, energy isn't just some commodity. It is the fundamental economic backbone of our entire modern world. Number two, incredibly small geographical locations can have outsized, massive impacts on global markets. And number three, in our highly connected world, regional conflicts simply do not stay regional anymore. A blocked waterway thousands of miles away directly impacts ordinary people everywhere, every single time.
Honestly, the sheer fragility of our global supply chains is truly staggering when you break it all down like this. It really isn't about how physically small the Strait of Hormuz is, but rather how much of our global stability relies so heavily on it remaining open and peaceful. So I want to leave you with this provocative final thought hanging in the air. Could a prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz actually trigger a major global economic crisis? What do you guys think? Would the global economy have enough time to absorb the shock, or will the consequences hit our fuel prices and our supermarkets before we even had a chance to react? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments.